This is a Q&A session. The topic that we have chosen is a very important topic. So the topic of discussion is living in a non-Muslim country. Alhamdulillah, in this country we are very blessed and fortunate that we are able to practice our Islam, etc. We are able to build masajid. There are so many benefits, and the list goes on. In actual fact, you can practice Islam better in this country than even certain Muslim countries. So this is a ni'mah from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and it's important that we acknowledge these factors. We have Islamic schools where our children are taught Quran. They are taught the Australian curriculum along with the Arabic language, with Quran, with studies of Islam. But at the same time, we also encounter situations. Our youth are exposed to certain things that go against our Sharia, our law, our Islamic law. So the discussion is basically around, we all have children, and we love our children. And I think every single parent obviously wants the best for their children. So the discussion is around, what can we do? What are some of the steps we can take to protect our children, to bring them up in such a way that inshallah, when we leave this world, they can carry on the light of Islam. And I think this is one of the biggest concerns for every Muslim parent, is how deen can remain in my family lineage, in my progeny to come. And that is why Ibrahim alayhi salam, he made this dua. Rabbi ja'alni muqim as-salati wa min dhurriyyati. Oh Allah, make me amongst those people who establish salah and also my progeny. Ibrahim alayhi salam did not just make dua for himself, but he made dua for his progeny to come. Because what we have found in certain parts of the world, for example, what took place in the Balkans, in Bosnia, in Albania, where they experienced communism. Islam was stripped from them. And then many generations had lost Islam. And we find, even if we look back in Australian history, we find when Islam came to Australia over 400 years ago, in the time of the Afghan Cameliers, when they traded with the Aboriginals, we find that many people were Muslim. Obviously, the Afghans were Muslims, and Islam was in Australia for many, many years. But we also find there is graveyards in South Australia where you find that there are Muslim names, and many non-Muslims that we see in today's time, they actually come from Muslim background. Many Aboriginals also, where the Aboriginals and the Afghans would marry. But what happened over time, because of the environment and not being connected to deen, eventually what happens? We lose our Islam. We lose our Islam, and that is a major concern. So I've just laid the foundation, inshallah. So our questions should be around this topic, this very important topic, which is a topic of concern for our children. How can we protect our children? So I'll open the floor, inshallah. Something can be done if your child attends a state school and they are mature and they are duty bound, meaning prayer has become mandatory upon them, then it is important as a parent to communicate with authorities to make such arrangements. Now, your child will only perform his prayers at school, and it's a very important point, because if the child comes home early enough and it's still the time for dhuhr, then it's okay. But if he knows that if I'm going to come home, and by the time I reach home, Asr would have already entered. If your child is baligh, then it is compulsory for your child to pray. Now, that foundation needs to be set from home, first of all. Because one thing is, as a parent, you want your child to perform salah. But then, and you can also follow that up with authorities. And I think no state school will prohibit any child from, or I'm sure they're more than happy to allocate a classroom during lunchtime and, allow them to perform their prayers. How long will it take? 6 minutes maximum. So, in order to achieve that child, so to go to the state school, to make that arrangement, that can be done. That's not a problem. And mashallah, the state schools are very accommodating when it comes to religion and prayers, etc. But what is more important than that? That you educate your child from home on the importance of salah. Now, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam has taught us that we need to encourage our children to perform prayers from a very young age. And when they reach a certain age, when they are mature, then we must strongly encourage them. One of the narrations mentioned, keep the rod hanging. So what does that mean? It means we need to emphasize the importance of salah. So, from childhood, make it exciting for your children. Make it something exciting. Don't make salah boring. Oh, come, let's go and make wudu together. Right? Sometimes just, encourage them. Let's just say you're trying to train him. You lead me in salah today, even though you're not praying. But to create that atmosphere that motivates that child to perform prayers. Prayer should be something exciting. But what we do, make sure you do your prayers. We attach this negativeness with salah, this staunchness, this big burden, and we really, if you don't pray, you do your prayers. Or our approach with our children has also become a problem. How we approach our children when it comes to the establishment of salah. So from a young age, we need to introduce salah to them. Which brings me to another point. And so when you educate your child about the importance of salah, this will make it easy for you to follow up with school, and then they themselves will be motivated to take out that 5-6 minutes and perform salah, because it is a problem. It is a problem. We don't want our children missing Jumu'ah. We don't want our children missing salah, because that's the foundation. How do we expect barakah, blessing, to be surrounding our children within the school environment when we are not fulfilling the rights of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? So it's a very important point. And this is a positive tick for the Muslim schools. This is one great advantage of having your children in a Muslim school. Allah knows best. Any other questions? Yes. The madrasa, the first madrasa of a child is the mother. The first institution for your child is the mother and the father. And they lay the foundation, right? To such a degree that when the child comes to that stage where they are able to understand, and let's just say a child's real understanding comes in maybe by grade 2 or grade 3, right? They're able to understand because as parents, you have laid that foundation. For example, maybe the music issue. Music is, certain music is not permissible, or the consuming of pork, right? So as a child, they know I come from a Muslim home, right? And they will protect themselves. And I've seen this on many occasions, where children actually tell their teachers that we're not allowed to. And that tells me that this child has good tarbiyah. It tells me that this child has definitely been through madrasa at home, and that madrasa is our parents. And what we need to remember, my dear brothers and sisters, is that the madrasas that we send our children to, this is actually a bonus. This is actually a bonus. The responsibility of Islamic education is the responsibility of the mother and father. The masajid are offering a golden opportunity for parents. It's not the job of the masjid to offer these madrasa classes, but we do it out of concern, and we do it out of filling the gap. However, it is important as parents that we educate ourselves. And from day one, from the time the child is born, we need to create that environment at home. Because what we are is what our children will become. We teach a child that for example, a girl, that in Islam, when you reach a particular age, you have to cover your hair. But then what happens? The same child that is picked up by the mother's not wearing hijab. It becomes very difficult. So as a parent, it is important to live by example. We can't just tell our children, this is Islam, blah, blah, blah. We need to show Islam in our manners, in our character, in the way we speak to one another. And it should all be related back to Islam. How we interact, even as husband and wife, how you speak to one another. That also has a major impact on your children. Because subhanAllah, our children are like sponges from a young age. And it's so sad that we waste their talent. Years go by, especially from the ages of 3 upwards. They are so intelligent. Their brains are so clean. And that is a golden opportunity to instill lots of education of deen, of Quran and Sunnah within their hearts. I'll give you one good tip with your children. If you are dropping your child to school, what do you play in your car? Do you know that if you are to download an app which recites or plays the du'as of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, there's about 20 powerful du'as. 2 years ago when I was dropping my children to school, there's about 25 du'as. And the adhkar, it's called adhkar. You can get it on the App Store. And these du'as, they all have references. Du'a for barakah, du'a for protection against evil, du'a for good memory, du'a for protection against Jahannam, du'a for everything. It encompasses all of our needs. Within 3 months, my children knew all 25 du'as. Just in 10 minutes of driving to school, playing it, going and coming. Simple. Because the children, they like to listen. Whatever they listen to. You want to play the Bangla Nasheed, Bangla music, they'll pick up Bangla music. You want to put Kuch Kuch Hota Hai, they'll pick up Kuch Kuch Hota Hai. They want to pick up Amr Diyab, they will pick up Amr Diyab. That's your fault. No one told you put this filth on. If there is a particular surah, for example, Surah Al-Waqi'ah, if you want to give your child the greatest gift, teach them these 2 surahs. Tabarak alladhi biyadihi al-mulk, Surah Al-Waqi'ah. Even if your child is 2 years old, just by them listening, they don't have to read the Quran. You will be surprised how much they can absorb within a very short period of time. They will know Surah Al-Mulk, the tip of their finger. But how many of us really go out of our way to get that CD, to download it from YouTube, whatever the case, it's so simple. Place that in your car, and you will be surprised how much your child can pick up. Years have gone by, we have wasted so much time. How much time as a family we spend in our vehicles? Just doing nothing. That's time. That's wasted time. That time, you can utilize that time, or even if someone's dropping your children, tell them, I want my son or daughter, I want them to listen to this. And from a young age, don't start when they are old. From the roots, as they say, when a tree is young, you can bend it. But when they get older, the roots become firm, which makes it difficult to move. True? That's why when youngsters, unfortunately, when they get older, it's harder to control them. Why? Because the foundation is not correct. Allah knows best. best. Any other questions?
His brother Iqbal Muhammad here, sister is looking for you. Okay, inshallah. Any more questions?
Our sister has a question?
Okay, so okay, one sister asked, how to stop kids from arguing with mom? Sometimes we the moms need daddy to say something.
How to stop the children from yelling at mum? Is that the question?
Arguing with mom.
Okay.
Yeah.
In the first place, before I answer that question, one of the biggest problems with children mentoring or bringing up children is that the husband and the wife are not on the same page. This tends to be the problem when bringing up children. When you find the father has one way of bringing up a child and the mother has one way of bringing up the child. The mother has her set of rules and you have your set of rules. And that's why you find when normally the child wants something, they won't go to the father, go to the mother. Because the mother is always more, you know. You want to ask something, sometimes people find it more difficult to ask the father. If they really want something, they'll go through the mother, and the mother must speak to the father. Because that's where the heart is. The heart is with the mother. Now, when it comes to disciplining our children, one of the biggest mistakes parents make, and of course we're all learning, but from a Sharia point of view, what we are taught is that when it comes to discussing matters of children, the husband and the wife must be on the same page. In terms of discipline, in terms of children upbringing, in terms of the approach on how we are going to deal with a particular scenario or situation. The mother and the father must be on the same page. You can't have the mother saying, oh no, leave him alone, and the father saying, oh no, you should be disciplined. That's wrong. That's a problem because now you're confusing that child. As husband and wife, you may disagree on certain things, but when it comes to bringing up your children, you must both be on the same page. And I can't stress this enough. Right. Now, if a child is arguing with his mother, obviously this is a serious problem. And it is very sad to say, very, very sad to say, that once upon a time, we never heard of these questions. It never existed, especially with our elders. When you speak to them, the amount of respect, mashallah. And I'm talking about my elders in my father's generation, and when, you know, subhanallah, even when I would hear my father, at the age of 65, you know, when I would hear my father speaking to his father, I feel ashamed of myself. At his old age, how he spoke to his father, I feel ashamed of myself. When he would speak to his father, even though he is obviously now old, he would still act like a young little boy. And that's a very important point. Us as children, we must never forget that we are children. Regardless of what we become, your parents will always have a greater authority over you. Whether you're an imam, whether you're a mufti, whether you're a doctor, a lawyer, whether you're a professor, always remember that your parents will always have a higher level, a higher degree over you. Because part of what you are is their blessing and their support and their mentoring that has made you what you are today. So if a child argues with the parent, this is obviously a serious problem. And Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when he spoke about the signs of Judgment Day, one of the signs of the day of Qiyamah is when the child will shun the father and show respect to his friends. He will give more preference and respect to his friends over the father. And we see this. Youngsters, at times when it comes to their friends, they have the biggest smiles. They speak so nicely. And some kids, they have no respect in ways of how to speak to their parents. And this is a serious problem, subhanAllah. Because if a child is doing that, you are actually one of the signs of Qiyamah. And this is exactly what the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam predicted. There was a person, and you've never heard of this, but you only hear this now over the past few years. There was a man, there was a person, this brother, he was 19 years old. 19 years old, and he used to beat his mother. He used to beat his mother. This is not a story, this is in Queensland. He would beat his mother, and the mother refused to call the police. Imagine, you can't fathom it in your brain. And how can a person hit his own mother? That is like one of the most gravest sins anyone can perform. To already raise your voice for your parents is a sin. But imagine lifting your hand on your beautiful mother. La ilaha illallah. But this is a zaman we are living in. We are living in the time of trial and tribulation. We are living in the time of fitna. So what is important? Of course, we must discipline our children. And when I say discipline, we need to, if our child is out of line, it is our responsibility to bring them back online. Now the question is, if my child is shouting at my wife or his mother, obviously this is a serious problem. This is a very serious problem. Maybe as the father, if you have control over him, then of course you need to advise him. That, oh my son, you cannot talk like that to your mother. This is the command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. فَلَا تَقُلْ لَهُمَا أُفْ. Do not even say uff to your parents. How do you expect Allah to be pleased with you if you are speaking in this manner to your mother? So of course you need to give da'wah to your son. And also while giving da'wah to your son, and always remember, the golden rule of inviting to Allah, there are two ingredients that Allah mentions in the Quran. And this rule applies to any form of da'wah. Whether it be to our non-Muslim brothers and sisters, whether it be to your own wives, whether it be to your parents, whether it be to your children, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us the ingredients to invite him towards Allah. Because if your child is being disrespectful towards your mother, his mother, he needs to be brought back to the path of Allah. If your wife is not being a proper wife, and she's going against the commands of Allah, she needs to be brought back to the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So Allah ta'ala says in the Quran, "Ud'u ila sabili rabbika bil-hikmah wal-maw'idati al-hasanah wajadilhum billati hiya ahsan." When you invite towards the way of Allah, always invite with wisdom. So now with your child, sometimes parents don't want to listen to their parents. Children don't want to listen to their parents. When the father wants to tell the child something, they act all arrogant. They look towards the other way, they show arrogance, and why are you telling me this? And of course you do get other children that are very kind and respectful, and if their father is to advise them, they take their advice on board, mashallah. And that's a very good sign. Because children will make mistakes. And you do get those situations where boys, and of course all of us, we're not angels, we also have made mistakes in the past. And may Allah forgive us if we have made mistakes. When you advise your child, always advise in a very wise way, and also with good akhlaq. Sometimes we become too strict, and then what happens? It has a negative impact on the child. Sometimes we become too stern, and then children rebel, and that's also another problem. So always take the middle path. And sometimes you may not be the right person even as the father. Sometimes you may have to go to an imam. And I've had this many a times. Sometimes the father can't tell the child, and maybe the child has more respect for the imam. So the person will come to the imam and say, "Imam, I have a problem with my son. Can you please speak with him?" And sometimes that does fix the problem. Or sometimes maybe take them to the grandmother. They may have more respect for the grandmother. So every situation is different. But the most important point is when we give da'wah to our children, we must apply these two qualities, wisdom and good character. Don't chase them away. Some people, we force our children with deen at the same time. It's a problem. We force Islam down. Of course, we have to encourage them. We don't force. La ikra'a fi deen. There is no compulsion in Islam. When you encourage your children, they will love Islam. You know, with madrasa, we talk about educating our children with madrasa. What is actually happening and what has happened over the years? And maybe the elderly people can relate to this more than the younger generation. Was if your child was naughty, what did they say? I'm going to send you to madrasa. Uncle, ring a bell? So you have two kids, and the good boy, inshallah, you become a good doctor. We'll make you a doctor. And you, I'm sending you to the madrasa. That's why they find all the imams are naughty, you know? So the point being, we have shown lots of disrespect to our sharia, to our deen and to our madaris, and that's why we find, alhamdulillah, that's changing now. But what I've experienced over the years with madrasa, many parents, especially the older generation, they would always relate Islam to punishment. Because you were naughty, I'm sending you to Pakistan, I'm sending you to Somalia, I'm locking you up there for life. Oh, I'm sending you away to go and study, trying to get rid of your problem with the deen. So chucking your child in madrasa is the solution. What is that teaching the child? Right? You are planting the seed in your child's mind that madrasa is a very scary place. It's a place for naughty kids. It's a place for punishment. And you know, unfortunately in our days, they used to use the rod, you know. When you were in trouble or you make a mistake, they would give you a few slaps. Alright? So, we need to change that understanding now. We need to, you know, madrasa is not a punishment. Madrasa should be enjoyable. Madrasa should be something that our children enjoy and they look forward to. And unfortunately, we are unfolding some of the problems that our elderly generation have left behind. But inshallah, there is a lot of improvement. But we need to make madrasa look like something that is special. Your children must yearn to go to madrasa. And of course, that's why with madrasa, we try and keep madrasa a very enjoyable, a very relaxed, a very, you know, constructive environment that really draws the children to wanting to come to madrasa. And of course, we don't say that we have perfected our madrasa. Of course, we are always learning. But the message, my dear brothers, we need to change this perception of Islam to our children. Madrasa should not be a punishment for your child, please. Madrasa should be something that our children yearn for, and it all starts from us. We can either build our child to love Islam or to dislike Islam. The ball is in our court, and it all starts from the foundation. Allah knows best. Now again, as we mentioned, the first comment I made, that the responsibility of the children is not just for the wife. It's for the husband and the wife. MashaAllah, alhamdulillah, our wives have been very kind towards us, that they do more than what they're supposed to do. And the Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, it is a sunnah to assist your wives at home, even to help with the washing, even to help with, you know, the Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam would sew his own clothing. He would check his clothing for own insects. Imagine if your wife said to you one day, you iron your clothing for today. How would some of us react to that? What? You telling me to iron today? Aren't you the wife? And Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he laid the foundation. He was the best of examples. And he would assist his wives. He would make it easy for them. So it is very important, as I mentioned before, when it comes to discipline, it's not just the mother yelling. The mother and father must work together. I'm not saying yell together, but of course, the mother and father need to discipline your children. And of course, sometimes you have to raise your voice. Sometimes, you know, of course, we will encounter, we're not saying that every single time you speak to your children, there's always a smile. Of course, you get upset, there are angry moments, and there are sad moments, there are, you know, moments where certain matters you need to approach it, especially with the more elderly, the more older boys and girls, right? Because many a time this is when children have attitude, they like to backchat towards parents. So likewise, yes, it's not just the responsibility of the mother, it is also your responsibility as a father to support your wife. You must support your wife. Like for example, if your wife is now shouting your son, and then you tell your wife, "No man, don't shout him, what's wrong with you?" That's wrong. And now your son is getting mixed messages. Oh, my father is in my support and my mother is against me. That's a problem. You're confusing that child. And now that child will show more disrespect towards your wife. But if you both take a standard, equal stance, that is when you will find you have two forces, my mother and my father, they don't want me to do this, and that is when you will find a positive outcome. Pray with them. Pray with them. When you pray your salah, you know, when we come to the masjid, one of the motivating factors is jama'ah. When there's a jama'ah, it's easy to pray. True? So likewise with your children. When you pray, make wudu, let them make wudu. When they pray, let them pray next to you. That will also motivate them. Don't just tell them, "Oh, go pray your salah." You also pray. Join them with prayer. Bring them to the masjid. Etc. So motivate them to pray by praying with them, inshallah ta'ala, and you will see that the children will know that, you know, there's a parent there beside them, and you can also monitor them. You can also monitor how they pray, and also you can mentor them in terms of their prayer. How to pray correctly, how to go into ruku', into sujood, how long to be, and of course they won't be perfect. Some of them are, you know, still playful, etc., etc. But that's a start. We all know, we all grew up, you know, once upon a time when father woke us up for Fajr. What did you do? Get up for Fajr. We get up on the tap and you're just standing there like this. Ring a bell, and then what do? You put the prayer mat there and go to sleep. Then the father comes in, he sees the prayer mat there. Oh, mashallah, my son. He starts crying. But then meanwhile, he did nothing. He just put the salah mat, he put the tap on full blast, you know, so now the mother and father say, "Oh, mashallah, beta, you know, alhamdulillah, he's making wudu," and, you know, meanwhile, not a drop of water actually touched his body. Right? We know all the tricks because we did that. Right? Allah knows best, right? So motivate your children, keep it exciting, pray with them, inshallah. Get your child to make the adhan, right? Get them to make the adhan, motivate them, encourage them. When you read hadith at home, and this is a very important point again, the environment of the home. Every house of a Muslim must have the environment of deen. And it's a reality, everyone has television in their homes. Okay? Try and minimize and monitor what your children watch. Because there's a lot of filth that we see on television. Right? A lot of filth, a lot of unnecessary. Compensate that with something more positive. So we're not saying divorce television, but utilize television in a positive way. Right? Something educational, documentaries, animals, nature, etc., etc. Right? Lectures, qira'ah, nasheed, right? It's things that are Islamically permissible. Create that environment at home. And what's very important, my dear brothers and elders, mothers and sisters, every single day, as a family, you need to take out at least 5 minutes to 10 minutes every day, family time, and recite some form of hadith. Have a book, Riyadh al-Salihin, Ar-Rahiq al-Makhtum, but sit as a family. And if your child can read, give them the book to read. Create the mahal, the environment of deen within your homes. This will also bless your homes. Because where the name of Allah and His Rasul is mentioned, this is a dwelling of malaika, a dwelling of angels, a dwelling where Allah's rahmah is descending. Why? Because Allah's name is being mentioned. So it is very important. Many a times we ask, why is there so much tension within the house? Because there's not enough ibadah taking place at home. And when we study the life of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, we find the 2 times where the Prophet of Allah made lots of dhikr and dua is after Fajr and after Asr. These 2 shifts of the Malaika. So when the Malaika swap shifts, they should see you in the remembrance of Allah. After Fajr and after Salatul Asr. So try and create some routine, as I mentioned in my lecture. Sometimes with our ibadah, we need to schedule our ibadah. Time for my Quran. Like how we schedule, I have to go to work, I come back, I have this meeting, I have that meeting. With your dhikr, with your adhkar, with your Quran, schedule that time in within your day. Make that part of your daily routine, inshallah. And with this ta'aleem at home, reading a book of hadith or a seerah, make this mandatory in your home. Even 5 minutes, my dear brothers and sisters. Take out that time and wallahi, you will see the blessing within your homes. We spend a lot of time at home. And many a time shaitan interferes at home, between husband and wife, between children and parents. And one of the ways of protecting our homes is the establishment of deen, dhikr, dua within our homes. One person, when I asked one of my great scholars, I said, dear Sheikh, I said, give me advice for my children. And I always ask, it's my habit, you know, with people that are elderly, imams, I always seek advice from my elders. And I asked them, I said, subhanAllah, you know, one of the scariest things to any parent is bringing up their children. We always worry, what is going to happen to my child? And sometimes, subhanAllah, we do everything in the book. We do everything that we are supposed to do. But then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala chooses to test us. And may Allah not test us with our kids, because it's a very difficult test. When our children go through certain phases in life, it becomes a very big test upon the parents. So this Sheikh mentioned, he said, of course we do whatever we have to do, whatever Allah and His Rasul has instructed us to live a life to the environment. But what he actually said, he said 70% is dua. 30% is doing what you have to do. But he says 70% is making dua to Allah, that Ya Allah, keep my children firm on deen. And this is a question we need to ask ourselves, that every day, after every salah, do we make dua for our children? Do we sincerely supplicate to Allah, saying, Ya Allah, Rabbi habli, you know, Ya Allah, Rabbana hablana min azwajina wa dhurriyatina qurrata a'yun. وَجَعَلْنَا لِلْمُتَّقِينَ إِمَامًا. Ya Allah, grant us children that will be a coolness to our eyes and will be imams, leaders for the muttaqeen, the righteous. We need to make lots of dua. Tonight, make tahajjud prayer. Make dua for your children, because that's your progeny. Your child can either be your everlasting investment, because one of the greatest gifts any father can have is leaving a righteous child behind, and that child makes dua for you. Wallahi. There is a hadith in Muslim where a person will be in his grave, and then all of a sudden, this person in his grave, he will be given great status. He will feel this great feeling. He's being honored within his qabr. And then he will ask the malaika, what is happening to me? Where is this honor and status coming from? And the malaika will reply, at this very moment, your son or your daughter is making dua for you. So we don't realize how powerful our supplications are for our parents. And that's why I always say in my talks when I speak about parents, because we all have parents, even though for the elderly, each and every one of us, we have a mother and father. Don't forget them in your du'as. Wallahi, make dua for them, because that will benefit them in their qabr. Make as much dua as you can to elevate their status. And that's the beauty of Islam. Even though they have passed away, we can still benefit them in their qubur, subhanAllah. The rights of the children upon parents. In a nutshell, Number one, to give your child a good name. To give your child, firstly, a good name. Because also the name that we choose, sometimes we choose some really weird names, names that you don't even, they have no meaning. When you choose a name for your child, you want your child to be that personality. You call your child Muhammad, you call your child Uthman, Abu Bakr, Uthman, Hamza. These are beautiful names. And with the intention of your child being like them and following in their footsteps. And the second right of the child upon the parent is that you give them a good upbringing, education, and of course more importantly, deen, to teach them Islam, to teach them the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to be a good parent, to give them good advice, to give them knowledge of deen, that is their haqq, to give them good advice, to lead them in the right direction. This is the rights of the children have over the parents.